Welcome to a press conference. On my left side I have Alexander Lambsdorff, Vice President of the European Parliament, leader of the FDP delegation, and Guy Verhofstadt. I give the floor to our group leader, Guy Verhofstadt.
Thank you very much. First of all, thank you for your presence today at this press conference. Before starting and presenting you a roadmap to tackle the refugee crisis, I want to say some words, because I know that Mr. Cameron is today also in Brussels, and I thought let me start maybe to say him welcome. The only problem is he sees only Mr. Juncker and Mr. Schulz, and we like that he should also address the plenary of the European Parliament. And I can tell you that Mr. Schulz is going to invite Mr. Cameron for that plenary, or if that is not possible, at least for a conference of the group's leaders on the 16th of February. And I hope that that David Cameron, who certainly likes democracy, like we all, accept the invitation. That said, the reason why we organize this press conference is because we think that on the 18th of February, it is completely unthinkable that we only will talk about the requests of David Cameron. We think that it is also absolutely necessary and key that we discuss the refugee crisis on the 18th of February, so that there is not one item on the agenda, but two items on the agenda. And the reason why we think it's absolutely necessary, because already for months now, the events are running out of hand. The member states of the European Union don't manage this refugee crisis. On the contrary, it's becoming worse. And what we have seen is the return of national border controls, the end of Schengen, a race to the bottom in strengthening the conditions for asylum seekers, and so on, without any change on the flows themselves. The figures of the beginning of this year are are very clear. We continue to have every day, every month, around several 10,000 of refugees coming in. We don't know exactly who are refugees and who are migrants, economic migrants. And this situation will continue until the moment that the leaders in the European Union are following a completely different path to solve that problem. And what we tried to show you today is a plan, a roadmap that can be implemented immediately. So, and I shall explain immediately how it works, and that could manage this crisis so that neither Schengen, neither the European project is falling apart. The first urgency measure we think we have to take on the 18th of February, not later than that, is to make use of what we call the emergency article, Article 78, paragraph 3 of the treaty, who is especially put in the treaty to tackle this problem that we are facing now. It is stating that if one or more member states are confronted with an emergency situation by a sudden inflow of nationals from third countries, that the Council, by a decision on a proposal of the Commission and after the opinion of the Parliament, can take any action they need. And what we propose is that immediately, without any legislation, there is no legislation needed, so there is no months or years that we need to do so. That is that we establish a European Rapid Refugee Emergency Force on based on the Treaty 78, paragraph 3. And that means concretely that the European Commission starts with such an emergency force, that in our proposal 2,000 servants of the national border agencies of the member states of the Schengen area should be sent to that emergency force. And what that emergency force will do is to take over, in cooperation with the Greek authorities, the border between Greece and Turkey. Not within 4 months, not within 5 months, from immediately after the decision has been taken on the 18th of February to establish such a force based on Article 78 of the treaty. What this emergency force is going to do is it's going to do the registration, it's going to do the security checks, it's going to establish also the reception centers on the border there, and they're going to also make the difference between who are real refugees on one hand and who are economic migrants and cannot enter in the European Union immediately. That's the first thing we propose to do. And people have not to say, and the European Commission have not to say, oh, it's difficult, it's not possible, because we need legislation. You don't need any legislation for that. You need simply a decision by Council, Commission, by Council, essentially after, I think, a positive opinion by the Parliament. That makes then part of the second thing to do, that is a fast-track procedure to establish a European border and coast guard. Because the first measure is to do that because we need so much legislation on the European border and coast guard that in my assumption it's going to take months before we are there. And we cannot wait months. Mr. Tusk and Mr. Rutte have said we have between 6 and 8 weeks to solve this problem. Well, if you have between 6 and 8 weeks to solve this problem, you cannot wait the European Border and Coast Guard to start. So this refugee emergency force we propose will be then later on incorporated automatically, spontaneously in the European Border and Coast Guard that we shall create with a fast-track procedure. And we foresee a budget multiplied by 5 of Frontex to start with the European Border and Coast Guard, 600 million. For some people who think that it is a huge amount of money, can tell you that the American Border and Coast Guard has $32 billion and 40,000 people on his records. But we think to start this operation, the 600 million are absolutely needed. The third thing what we propose is to change the agreement with Turkey, if there is an agreement with Turkey for the moment, because I don't know, but in any way to change the nature of it. It's completely not productive to think that you can outsource your problem to another country. That doesn't exist. What we need to do is to use the 3 billion euro in another way. We want to use 1/3 with the UN to really change dramatically the infrastructure in the different refugee camps in Turkey. And the second thing what we want to do is to use the other 2 billion euro on a yearly basis to give a financial assistance directly to the refugees in the refugee camps in Turkey. We are talking about 2 million people there, more or less. And we have 2 billion. Today, you know what the amount is that the UN is spending on a monthly basis to a refugee in a refugee camp? It is $7 a month. It comes from $28 a month. It went down from $28 a month to $7 a month. And that's one of the main reasons why people are leaving there, because the conditions are unacceptable. So the first thing to do is to increase and to give that money directly to the refugees in the refugee camps. With 2 billion, 2 million, you can give more or less $80 or 80 euros a month to every refugee. And for a refugee family, that means 200, 300 euro a month that they can spend for education, for food, for housing in the camps themselves. And that's going to make the big difference with what is happening today. instead of the 3 billion that we don't know how they're going to be spent by Turkey. That's the third essential decision to be taken. We have the 3 billion. Let's use them in a different way in Turkey, directly in the camps, directly in a financial assistance to the refugees. And then the fourth is that the so-called hotspots, we have to upgrade them, certainly those on the border between Turkey and Greece. They have to become real reception centers under the responsibility of this new emergency force we create, and later on of the European Border and Coast Guard. And there will happen the managing, controlling, registering, also the decent housing of these people. People stay there for a short moment to make the difference who is economic migrant, who is a real refugee. And then it is on the European level that these people who ask for asylum or are real asylum searchers are sent to countries in the European Union. And that is a European decision, a European responsibility in that case. So these hotspots, we change them dramatically in what we call reception centers on another basis. And then comes the last elements of the emergency measures we are proposing. But the four first are the most important one, because they have to be implemented from the 9th February on. If on the 18th you can take a decision in that sense, that is then the change of the asylum system, because Dublin doesn't work, and we need another way of working with asylum on a European level, with a repartition of the task between the different member states. We need then also a new economic migration system, the blue card, one blue card system that replaces the 28 existing national legislations. And we also propose an upgrading of our role in the political process in Geneva around the conflict in Syria, and already the establishment of what we call a post-war plan, a Marshall Plan for that region. So that are the main topics. What we're going to do with it, we're going to not only present it to you. This evening I see Mr. Rutte, who is in the lead, as you know, for 6 months with the Dutch presidency of the European Union. And next week, the Commission, Mr. Avramopoulos, who is responsible for it, and also Mr. Dijkhoff, the Dutch minister, who will also attend an important debate on this issue and on this roadmap in the European Parliament on, if I have it well, Tuesday afternoon in Strasbourg. Naturally, this is also a radical shift with some policies in almost every country, I should say, in the European Union. But especially, I think, also an answer for many questions that live in many countries, and certainly in Germany. And maybe I can immediately give the floor to Alexander to say a lot more on this.
Well, I won't say a lot more, but I want to say a few things about the German situation. Guy has asked me to speak about this, and I'm happily obliging. Germany, of course, is a key player in this, has a key role due to its size, its geography, but also due to the political decisions that have been taken in Berlin, particularly the one to drop, essentially, the application of the Dublin system without proper consultation of European partners. There is now a situation in which Germans feel that there is no European solidarity anymore. I think it is useful to recall that after the crisis in Lampedusa in 2013, when calls were there to change Dublin, to make Dublin a system that works also in a difficult situation, it was also Germany that did not want to discuss this particular topic. Now, however, the situation is much more dramatic, and this is not about history lessons, this is about looking forward. The only thing that the German government has been able to obtain so far is the distribution key for 160,000 refugees in the Justice and Home Affairs Council. this is widely seen as not working. Now, obviously, the distribution key is one of the most difficult elements of what must be a larger plan, and this is what this plan that the ALDE Group is presenting here is about. It needs to go hand in hand with the protection of the external borders. It needs to go hand in hand with a common asylum and migration system. It needs to go hand in hand with the creation of a coast guard and many other things. The political effect, however, of this distribution key being an isolated measure that doesn't work is that you have an amount of frustration in the German body politic that is increasingly translating into Euroscepticism, even in those parts of the German polity that usually do not give in to Eurosceptic tendencies. The political debate essentially has two dimensions now. One, everybody recognizes that a European solution is needed, but most people in Berlin and other parts of Germany these days say they do not believe a European solution can be found. What we are presenting here is a European solution. So everybody says we need a European solution. This, what you have in front of you, is the European solution. The result of this lack of belief in a European solution is that the closing of the German borders may be imminent either after the 18th of February or at the very latest when the central Mediterranean route is opening up in March again, when the weather gets better and not only Turkey is going to be the transit, but the Mediterranean will see more refugees coming there as well. That's one dimension. So the lack of belief in a European solution. The second dimension, and that is particularly a German situation, is that the parties that compose the German government, the Grand Coalition, are infighting in a way that is very unpleasant, a very unpleasant sight to behold. And I say this, I'm a member of an opposition party in Germany, but speaking as a citizen, faced with a historic crisis, citizens want their government to be able to handle the crisis. There is now also a lack of belief not only in the emergence of a European solution, but also a lack of belief in the capability of the German government to get its act together. The result of this is that we now have right-wing radicals, Eurosceptic radicals, in the double-digit position in our polls in Germany. So we see frustration and radicalization in the German body politic because of the lack of belief in a European solution. This is designed to counter that, to give a specific roadmap for a European solution, to find a solution to this refugee crisis, and to make sure that Germany, which is the largest country of the European Union, does not see the emergence of a Eurosceptic party along the lines of PVV and Front National and all the others that you all know about. I'm therefore happily supporting this wholeheartedly. My party will, or has a very similar plan. We have had this discussion in Germany, obviously directed at the German government. This now takes it to the European level, and I'm very happy that we can discuss this here today. Thank you.